open up and then stay.
Sure. Another tough weekend. Was able to take away a win. Obviously you're always looking to win every single game, but up and down. And I think it's been the story of the season. I've been doing a lot of reflecting, and I always go back to how I was raised. And my parents owned 2 restaurants for almost 50 years. And when you're self-employed, you create your own success and failure. And you learn how to overcome adversity, and you have to create opportunities for yourself and overcome some of those things. And it's those qualities and characteristics that I'm trying to instill in my team. And I think about this generation, and there's a lot of coaches that are very vocal on social media right now, and LSU's baseball coach is one that continues to come to mind. And it's getting our players to understand that they can handle hard, that I believe in every single one of them. I believe in this team, that failure doesn't mean that you are a failure. It means you just failed at what you were trying to do, and that it's okay. And they just have to grow from it and continue to build and get stronger and realize that they can do hard things. So that's what I want them to learn from these experiences. It doesn't define who they are. It's just a moment in time that we have to overcome, whatever adversity that we're facing. We got a short window left. So the clock is obviously ticking, but we got to continue to go out and give the best we possibly can and be competitive in what we do.
And it's tough in the moment when you want the results in a season, but how important, I guess, when you have the youngest team in the SEC is it for to kind of have these experiences and, go through what you're just talking about?
Yeah, because again, you have to believe that you can handle hard things. And knowing how young we are, they have to learn from these moments. They can't back down, they can't get complacent, they can't give in to it. They just have to reflect and then find another way and could just continue to battle and continue to grind and respect the game as they're doing it, and just go out every single day and be proud of the effort that you put in. You have no control over that result. But at the end of the day, if you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you gave it your very best, that's all we ever ask.
When you look at Arkansas, what stands out about what they've been doing this season? Obviously a tremendous year for them.
Yeah, they're playing extremely well. They're very, very confident. They're a veteran team. They have the full package. They play great defense. They have a very strong lineup, and they have a lot of depth in their pitching staff. And it's a really fun atmosphere to play in. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Our team hopefully can rise to the challenge. And again, the game doesn't care. The game doesn't care where Arkansas is ranked, what they're capable of doing. We know that we have an opportunity, and we can beat anybody in the conference when we play well. And we just have to go out, and we have to do that for all 21 outs.
I'm curious, the next few days before you guys leave for Arkansas, what does that kind of look like in terms of having those conversations about having that fight in game when you're down, when you're trying to battle back?
Yeah, today is a recovery day, but yesterday after our game, there was a collective group of our leaders and educating them on taking some ownership and what are the conversations that they're having within the dugout and within the locker room. And they have to take some responsibility for that, because it can't just come from the coaching staff. We're there, and they have to be an extension of our message, and they have to have the same language, and not expect everybody to just do it just because we're saying to do it. They have to do it because they believe in it, and then they're continuing to send that same message. So we had those conversations yesterday. Today, hopefully they have a reset and can get out in the beautiful weather and kind of step away for a little bit, and then tomorrow it's back to work. Tomorrow we'll have some individual pitching groups and focus on some things our pitching needs to do, and same with the hitters, and really prepping for Arkansas. We'll do that same Wednesday, and then Thursday back on a plane headed down there.
Have you seen that kind of get more difficult over the years with leaders when you have all the different things now, social media, the noise? Have you seen that get more difficult over your years as coaching?
I definitely have. And I was thinking too about what I was saying earlier about the lessons I learned from my parents being self-sufficient. I have 2 young nephews too, and they're 12 and 9. And when I hear some of them say, I don't want to do that because it's hard or I'm not good at it, where is that coming from? And I think it's a lot of society and, making sure that all of our kids are successful and we're paving the way, and that they don't face a lot of adversity early on. So I think it's just a myriad of different things to give them the confidence that they can do some hard things. Leadership is very rare, and I think it's always been rare, but it also, because there's so much more judgment because of social media, because of the attention that they get. So then they get very critical on if they do stand out in a crowd. So I think it's a bunch of different things, but it's also those players that have that innate ability to be able to speak up, and you don't have to be liked, you just have to be respected and to be comfortable in your own skin doing so.
And I know there's an opportunity to try to add a midweek game this week since you've got the next few days. Where are the talks at with that? Has there been any progress to getting?
Still working on it, so I'm not going to disclose who just yet to put any pressure on them, but yes, I had some phone calls last night. They have to talk to some of their administration to see if it works, because obviously it's an added budget constraint, but hopefully it comes into place that we're able to add another midweek.
How does that, I guess, change, the schedule for the week? You're talking about taking a couple days to prepare for Arkansas. If at the last minute you end up with a game on a Wednesday, how does that really change just the whole schedule?
It changes some of the preparation, especially in the bullpen and the pitchers, because obviously we're going to have to throw live, so then there's an added volume that adds into that if we do add a midweek. But we've been doing it all season long, so we're able to make those adjustments. We're going to get down to Arkansas earlier on Thursday. And it's over only one game, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it really just changes their preparation that we would have tomorrow.
And then is that something that's kind of been in the works for a while? Is that something that came up, a week or two ago as you were looking at these final couple of weeks, or is that something that's been kind of building?
For the last month, it was reaching out to schools in the area on looking at their schedules, who still needs added games, paying attention to the weather. Again, like they're looking to compete in their conference championship as well. So it's kind of been figuring out a date that works for everybody, that you're not burning your bullpen. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, you want to play games, but you can't do it at the sacrifice of your student athletes and their welfare. So it's figuring out what works for everybody, and not everyone's schedule's the same. And I mean, there's times that we could have hopped on a bus and traveled 5 hours, but now what is that doing to the student athletes to prepare for Arkansas? Like, is that the best thing for them? So it's just really figuring out what is best.
Curious what the message is for Marissa. I know you've told us in the past she wants to be perfect and wants to do well for this team. She did great Saturday, and obviously a tough outing on Sunday. What's the message for her moving forward into this week?
Just continue to own the moment. Own the moment. And she said some really good outings on Saturday. And I think it's going to build a lot more of her confidence. And she was disappointed yesterday with her performance. And I know she's going to rebound and she's going to learn from it. We don't ask her to come out of the bullpen a lot. So it was a different environment for her to be able to come in there. So it's just recognizing some of those things. But I think her starts that she has had in the last couple of weeks have been very, very competitive. So she should feel really good about that.
Sierra Harrison, I mean, what have you just been seeing from her lately? Obviously a great start to yesterday's game. What have you just been seeing her development-wise this season?
So competitive, really, really competitive. I think the frustrating thing is the games that she's throwing, it's trying to figure out why she doesn't get all the calls behind the plate. So is it something that we're doing? Is it where the ball is breaking in the zone? Is it the look that the umpires are getting? Do we need to make some adjustments with Fania because they throw completely different? Sierra's release point is different because she's not as tall as McCann. So it's a different look for an umpire. So it's figuring out some of those types of things to give her a little bit more of an advantage, because I think she gets squeezed, and I'm not saying it's because of the umpires. I think it's something that we could be doing a better job to give the umpires a better look, because it's such a low release point. And if you were to break down her pitching motion, I mean, she's 5'4", and sometimes her release point is only 2.5 feet off of the ground. So very different vision for the umpires to be able to recognize that ball coming through the zone.
With Stefania in that conversation, what would some adjustments look like from her spot as you're trying to mix and match these looks for them?
So what Fania does extremely well is she gets herself very, very low to the ground when she receives. So she's not getting in the way of the umpire, but not every umpire is used to that. So maybe we have to get her a little bit higher and be a little bit broader, so then the umpire might be working off of her shoulders a little bit more. So again, playing around with that visual, like, are we able to get more calls if Fania's more upright than low to the ground? We'll figure it out. We'll try. We'll try anything at this point.
Obviously, a couple of matchups against top 10 teams coming up in the next 2 weekends. What's the message to the girls about just the opportunity, I guess, that lies ahead to finish this season, get to where you want to be, right? Yeah,
and then again, like, we're not going to get caught up where anybody's ranked. Like, everyone in the SEC can be anybody at any time. I mean, that's just how brutal and tough it is. So why not us? Like, that's really it is. Like, why not us? Like, the game doesn't care. You know, Tennessee and Arkansas, they know that they're going to postseason. Like, they've had really, really strong seasons. They're fighting to host regionals and super regionals. Why not be the underdog and take them out of that ranking? So why not us? But again, like, we've gone out and we've beaten some really, really tough teams. So we got to believe that we can go down there and do the same thing.
All right, and coming off of a series with South Carolina where you guys were only able to score 2 points, what do you think like needs kind of change with like your approach at the plate to kind of get more offense going in the Arkansas series?
We have to manufacture more runs. We have to have more quality at bats. You know, towards the end of the game, I felt like when we were down, we were really aggressive. And when a team is down runs, the pitchers are not going to give you much to hit. They're going to want the batters to get themselves out. So we have to be able to control that strike zone a little bit more and maybe draw some more walks or work the count a little bit differently. Get the pitcher to throw more rather than be so aggressive early on in the count. And that again is the inexperience that I see within our lineup. Like, I can't tell them to take a pitch. Like, they have to understand the game within the game a little bit to understand how you work that count when you're down runs. And then when we have our opportunities, we have to take advantage of them. I mean, we had bases loaded with 1 out and we didn't put the ball in play. Like, that was our opportunity to put the pressure on South Carolina. You know, and there was a couple miscues that we had. We missed some bunts that we were able to put people in scoring position. We ran into some outs on the base path. So we can't expect to have multiple opportunities to be able to score a run. That might be our one chance, and we have to take advantage of it.
All right, and also too, as you kind of just get into like the crunch time of the NCAA tournament kind of on the horizon and like getting seeding for the SEC tournament, how do you kind of like avoid like that pressure kind of becoming like a distraction or something that kind of could get in people's heads, especially this time of year?
It's not focusing on it. Like, we're not playing for that purpose. We're playing and we have to focus on winning that individual moment. We have to focus on what are we going to do at practice tomorrow to win the moment. What are we going to do in our game on Friday to win that moment? It's about winning that individual pitch. And when we focus on, and I'm going to quote Rory again, process over a prize. And we have to focus on the process and not what the prize is if we are successful. And if you focus on the prize, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and you're going to feel that pressure of the NCAA tournament or your seeding or whatever is at stake. It's about that process that you need to discipline yourself to stay true to.
Anybody on Zoom?
Leadership has been a topic of discussion all season. You mentioned earlier that there were some leaders after Game 3. Who were those players stepping up?
You know what's really neat to watch is our younger players. Sid Forster is a natural leader. She's extremely competitive, very, very passionate, and not afraid to speak up. And she's just a freshman. So it's making sure that we support her in that role. I know the team absolutely supports her. They listen to her, but it's also empowering her to be more vocal, to not think, well, I'm just a freshman. I don't have a opportunity, or I don't have the right to say anything because I'm only a freshman. But again, the game doesn't care that you're freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So it's allowing her to be comfortable in her voice because people do want to follow her. I'd like to see Sierra Harrison is extremely powerful leader and can use her voice to benefit the entire team. When you hear her in the dugout, she is so unbelievably passionate if she's pitching or she's not, like completely supportive. So it's continue to give those players those opportunities, but again, be comfortable in speaking up in front of the group, and that's something that not a lot of people are very comfortable doing.
How do you keep a team as young as this away from being discouraged when like the margin of error is so thin against SEC teams?
Yeah, and it's winning the little battles and letting them know that they're going to be successful when they do win those little battles, but then also celebrating those moments. Like, not thinking just because you went 0 for 4 that, again, like, because you failed doesn't mean you're a failure. And that's where they tie the two together sometimes. The public does, their support staff sometimes does, their parents might, their neighborhoods might. Like, you never ever want to think just because you failed, you are a failure. So it's us making sure that they are doing everything they possibly can to reward them because they gave the effort and they had the right approach. They have no control over the result. And if they have great effort and they have a great approach and they stay disciplined to it, once the ball leaves their hand or once the ball leaves their bat, it's out of their control. So just because they lined out to somebody doesn't mean they failed. They did everything possible, and they have to feel good about the effort that they put into it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm working on a story right now about like Patrick Anderson and like your kind of guys like able to bounce.
Patrick, my husband?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna kind of ask a couple of serious
Okay.
questions about
Yep.
that. All right, so how does like having like two coaches and a family kind of like help like your approach when it comes to day to day as being like a head coach in softball?
It's very unique. It's an added coach to my staff because he has a different perspective. I've learned a tremendous amount from him. Being around professional baseball for 24 years of our marriage, I picked up on little things. I mean, being a professional coach and working with a professional team, I mean, they're playing 142 games. So how do you go day in and day out to try to get the very best of your players, and how do you develop? And minor league baseball is really different because sometimes it's not about the wins and the losses, even though everyone wants to win. But for him, it's about player development and getting his players to the big leagues. So how do you balance teaching them the game, competing, while also developing players that can go on to the big leagues and have a long career in professional baseball? The other side of it is sometimes I don't want to coach at home. So, there's times that I go home and I'm like, let's just not talk about softball and baseball for a little bit. Let's just talk about maybe our dog or, yard work. So I'm not always on the clock 24 hours a day. So it's fun, and I'm able to bounce some ideas off of him and vice versa.
All right, and how like what does kind of like balancing that life kind of especially look like as you guys are both kind of in the heart of your season right now?
Well, I will say technology has helped it. When we first started and we first got married, he was in the Midwest League. He was in Burlington, Iowa with the Royals, and I was in New York. And then he was there for 7 years, and he spent a year in Idaho Falls, and FaceTime was not a thing back then. And you didn't have smartphones. So the communication was very limited because they obviously have night games, and they would end at 11 o'clock at night, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, and there wasn't a lot of communication. But the time frame now, I mean, we absolutely love Columbia, Missouri. He's in Springfield, so it works out really well that we're able to see each other a lot more. I can pay attention to his games a lot more, so I'm much more involved in who his players are, and vice versa. He was able to see us in Auburn. He was able to come to our game against Missouri State. So there's a lot more collaborative sharing of our professions. And when we first got into this, he was in professional baseball. I was a college softball coach at Hofstra, and it was like, well, let's see whose career takes off more, and then that's what we're going to follow. And we both took off, and we're like, well, let's do this. Let's see how far we can take it. And it's the best of both worlds because he's in season from middle of February, which is spring training, up until after Labor Day weekend, which is the heart of our season, where I'm never home anyway. And then he gets home and he can celebrate Mizzou football and Mizzou basketball, and we can be home, and I'm home at the same time.
All right, and does kind of like having like another coach that like you're like so easily able to talk to kind of like help like during like if you have like a tough series, like kind of having someone who could like very much kind of like relate to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been there. 142 games a year, like he's absolutely been there, so he understands the highs and the lows, and not many people understand that, and to have a spouse that understands the profession is extremely helpful. So he knows that when we've had a bad day or a bad game, that we're gonna talk about it with each other, or we're not. Like it's not personal.
And you kind of touched on this already, but like, is there anything like you could like that you take away from like his coaching style, or that he's like take away from like your coaching style that you think has like really helped both of your teams?
Yeah, a couple things. Like I love when I'm able to watch them practice. Like again, 142 games. They practice every single morning before they play a game. So you're trying to get players better while you're in season. Like there's really no off season for professional baseball in terms of coaching and development. So watching some of the early work, I picked up on how they have tags. I've watched a lot of catching, the game management piece, and that's really where I got my philosophy on managing the bullpen is through baseball and through watching Patrick's teams. Ever since I've been here at Mizzou, we've had a full bullpen, and we have middle relievers, and we have closers, and that's how baseball has always done it since the beginning of time. So establishing who is going to be our middle reliever, who bridges the gap, who's going to be our closer, getting that mentality, being able to make those adjustments. When do you make the adjustments? Like that all came from baseball. So I would not be able to manage the bullpen without that experience and knowledge that I gained from him. From his standpoint, you'd have to ask him what he's picked up from us, but I think a lot of it is the short game. And, baseball's always playing for the double play. Softball doesn't do that as much. Like there's times we get the force out of third, which never happens in baseball. But what's happening right now in our season? A lot of short game. A lot of putting the ball in play, a lot of bunting for base hits, stealing home, a lot of things that you don't traditionally see in baseball because they live and die by the home run. So I think there's a lot of carryover. I've always said to him, like, why don't you be the first manager that actually has slappers in baseball? And he's like, I would probably be laughed out of the sport, but guess what? They're starting to have some slappers in baseball to be able to just put that ball in play to get on base.
Alright, is there kind of like a struggle that also kind of goes along with that at all?
With being married to a baseball coach,
Yeah.
that we're never off. I think that's the biggest piece. We're never off the clock. The travel's tough. Like being apart for 6 months out of the year, that's tough when your spouse and your partner isn't home, and especially when you need each other. I don't know how he does it with the travel. Like I would never ever be able to do what he does with the amount of travel and being on a bus for 14 hours and then playing 6 games on the road. Like that's really, really tough. But I admire his work ethic and what he does and his commitment to those guys.
Alright, what would you say would be like your favorite part of like both being coaches?
Just developing young players, developing the youth of people, and developing players that continue their career. He's got one of the best jobs in the world in developing minor league guys, and when he sees them playing in the big leagues, like that's really awesome. He coached Juan Soto. Like, what better thing to say that you coached one of the greatest baseball players ever? So I think just developing players and people, and then when they continue the career and they learn more than just the sport and can come back and say thank you for being a part of my journey, that's the best part about it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Cool.